Okay, good morning, everybody. So we're going to talk about 18.5 quadratic functions and their graphs. Now, there's a lot of writing initially, okay? And then I'm going to do a bunch of examples after this. So if you want, at any moment, just pause the video so you can write down notes, all right? Because all I'm going to do is just read them real fast. And what I'm going to do is I will highlight the important pieces of information that we need to know, okay? So I'd like to start off with just defining a quadratic function. We know that a quadratic function has the following form. This is important. So it's f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. We know a is not allowed to equal 0, and a, b, and c are going to be real numbers. Now, the goal for this section is we're going to translate, which means we're going to move that quadratic function around the xy chart, okay? And we do that using the following properties, okay? So with the vertical shift, notice that the constant that we're going to be talking about is outside of the x squared function, okay? It's outside of it. So if k is positive, then we're going to shift k units up, all right? If k is negative, then we shift k units down, okay? Now, for horizontal shifts, notice here, f of x equals x minus h squared. All right, x minus h quantity squared. Now, it has to be x minus h. And the thing that we're concerned with here is only the h. We do not look at the negative sign in front of the h, okay? Let me make that a little note here. I'll write it down in red, okay? Only look at h, okay? Now, if h is positive, then you're going to move h units to the right, okay? And if h is negative, you move it to the left. Now, there is something I'm going to write here in red because this is extremely important, okay? Back to this right here, all right? You may come into a situation where you have this plus h, okay? If you have the plus h, so if we have this, you got to rewrite it as f of x equals x minus negative h squared, okay? Because remember, it has to be in the form x minus h. It has to be in this form x minus h, okay? I know that's a little confusing at first. Maybe you should pause the video or rewind it like, 10, 15 seconds and listen to it again. But if we have f of x plus h, it has to be minus a negative h, okay? Let me get out my highlighter again. So now we're going to look at whether or not the parabola opens up or opens down, okay? So what you're concerned with is the coefficient of the x squared term, okay? So if the a is positive, then it opens up. And if a is negative, it opens down, all right? I think we already knew that one. Now, the last one is one that not a lot of students recognize initially, okay? We can look at how narrow or how wide our parabola is going to be when we compare it to f of x equals x squared. And the key here is, note in the example that I've given you, the f of x equals x squared, a is equal to 1. So we're going to compare it to a equals 1. So if the absolute value of a is greater than 1, sorry about that, wrong highlighter. If the absolute value of a is greater than 1, then it's narrow. And if it's less than 1, meaning a fraction, then it's going to be wider, okay? So if we put all of this together, what we can do is we can quickly graph any quadratic function by combining all the properties above, and they look like this right here. So when you combine everything above, and I will label everything here, all right? I'll label everything here. You get this general equation right here, all right? Now, let me label everything, okay? I did it again. Britney Spears, she was a good singer, at least when I was in school. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go left to right, okay? There's your A. This tells us opens up or down, narrow or wide. All right? That's how much information is stored in just that one coefficient. Now the h will tell us if we shift left or right. Okay? And then the k, that tells us if we shift up or down. All right? So let's look at an example. Okay, let's look at an example. Let's put all this together, okay? Actually, no, I'm moving a little too fast. I'm moving a little too fast. I forgot this over here to the right. Now, h comma k. In other words, when you know h and you know k, that's called the vertex of the parabola. All right? That's called the vertex of the parabola. And there is another very interesting piece of information. When you let x equal h, okay, when you write out that equation, x equals whatever h happens to be, whatever number that is, what you've just found is the axis of symmetry, okay? So let me give you an example here, all right? I'll give you a really, really simple example here, all right? What we want to do is we just want to sketch the graph. Doesn't have to be perfect, we're just sketching, okay? So sketch the graph of each quadratic function. We're going to label the vertex and sketch the axis of symmetry. Okay? So like I said, this isn't going to be a perfect graph. We're just going to sketch it a little bit. So here's our first problem. Let's look at f of x equals, how about negative x plus 6 squared, okay? So when we go ahead and we do this, all right, it's kind of nice to start off with step 1, which is a vertical shift, okay? Now, notice with our problem, and I'm gonna rewrite it off to the right-hand side here, okay? Because I'm going to write some stuff in. Okay? So, off to the right-hand side. Oh, man, I did it again. Notice, for step 1, I have that plus 0. In other words, no vertical shift. Okay? Now, if you recall, from the last time we spoke in class, like literally in class, and we talked about the parent functions, we know the graph of f of x equals x squared is a parabola with the vertex centered at 0, 0. All right? So far, I know I'm going to take this general graph right here, this f of x equals x squared, okay? And I'm not moving it up or down at all right? So, step 2, horizontal shift, okay? Now, for us on the right-hand side, you have to remember, this has to be written in the form x minus negative h because it's x plus 6, okay? So what I'm going to do is first rewrite as, and I'm going to write out the original, and then all I'm going to do underneath is I'm going to separate. I'm going to make that x minus negative 6 quantity squared, okay? So I know, according to the properties that we have, okay, that h is negative 6, so we're going to shift. So let me write this here. No shift. Sorry, I forgot that. And then here we're going to, since it's negative, we're going to shift 6 units to the left. Okay? So up here, right here, I'm going to shift this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units to the left. So now it looks like that over there. Okay? All right. Now, step 3. Does this open up or down? Okay, well, that's pretty easy to look at, all right? So over here with step 3, A equals -1, because it's right here. That's the -1. So opens down, okay? And then step 4, is it narrow or wide? Well, since A equals -1, all that's going to do is just what we say is it just reflects it. So same as A equals 1. In other words, it's not narrow and it's not gap, or it's not narrow and it's not wide. It's the same. So at the end of the day, here's what's happening here, okay? Let me write this out. And like I said, we're not going to be all particular with this because we're just sketching, all right? We start off at that special point for y, or for f of x equals x squared. In other words, the vertex 0, 0, okay? That's where we're going to start. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow exactly my steps. I don't shift up or down. I shift to the left 6 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now my point is going to be right there, or my vertex, more importantly. So right here. All right. I know I open down and it's basically the same. So what I'm going to do is just kind of give it just a little bit of a parabolic shape and label my vertex. Well, my vertex, this is going to be the point, -6, comma, -6, comma, 0. And my axis of symmetry is always going to be that number right there. So x equals -6. And if I wanted to graph that, I know since it's x equals -6, that is a vertical line. And I just label it x equals -6, okay? And I'll just label the vertex right there. And that's it. That's as hard as it gets, okay? All right? So for the next problem here, what I'm going to do is instead of writing out all these steps, what I'll do is I'll point to everything and I'll tell you what it does, okay? See if we can do it that way as well. All right, so let's look at this example here. All right, so let's do f of x equals... let's not start off with fractions. We'll do 3 parenthesis x plus 7 squared plus 1. Okay? So if I look, and what I'll do is I'll label it in red. This is going to tell me I shift up 1 unit. Okay? Now, this really has to be written as x minus -7 quantity squared. So that tells me shift left 7 units. And this tells me opens up, and it's very narrow because 3 is bigger than 1. Okay? So watch how fast I do this now. I start off once again at my origin. Just let me label everything. All right, so I start off right here at the origin, and I'm going to shift up 1 unit. So I go up 1 unit, and then, actually, let me use a different color here so you can see it. What I'll do is I'll use the highlighter so you can see my moves. So I shift up 1 unit, okay? Then to the left, 7 units. So let's see, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's right here now, okay? I'm going to put my vertex. Now, I'm going to open it up, and I'll make it narrow. Just like that. Label the vertex, -7, 1. Axis of symmetry, x equals -7. And I'll label that also. Okay? That's it. That's as hard as it gets. Let's try another one here. Now I'm going to start introducing some fractions here. Okay? So let's do this one. Let's go g of x equals -3/2, x minus 5, quantity squared minus 2. Okay? All right, so once again, I'm going to label everything. So that's -2, so I shift down 2 units. Now this is already in the form x minus h. It's already there, so I'm going to shift. Let me erase this real fast. There we go. So remember, I'm only looking at the h. I'm only looking at that 5, okay? So shift right 5 units. Now, this is going to be tricky, okay? You have to remember 3/2 is 1.5, so it's larger than 1, okay? So I know it's going to open down because of the negative right there. It opens down, and it's going to be narrow. So let's graph it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, whatever. So here we go. Start off at that vertex. Okay. Now I'm going to get out my highlighter so you can see my moves. I'm going to shift down 2 units. So there's 1, there's 2. I'm going to go to the right 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So there's my vertex right there. All right. If you wanted to, you can label it from here. That's the vertex 5, comma, -2. All right. Now it's going to open down and it's going to be narrow. Okay. Open down and it's narrow. And my axis of symmetry, I guess I'll just write it in black, is going to be x equals 5. All right. That's it for this section. That's as hard as it gets. It's just being able to read and then translate based off of the information that you're given. Okay. So in the next section here, I'm going to teach you how to derive that formula. And one of those techniques creeps back in that we always hate. I'll leave that for the next video so you don't hate me for this video. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.